broadcasting for the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast for the DVC.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us on episode 2 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom, and I'm here with my fellow Disney addicts, Trevor and Damon. How you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Doing well. Hey, every day's a good day when we get to talk about Disney, right?
Exactly.
So, we've got some great topics to cover today. We're going to talk about some rumors and some things that are going around, going on around the parks. But before we get started with all that, I just wanted to ask Damon. Damon just went to Universal, and
I did.
There were some interesting things you were telling me about, and I would love if you tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So we just got back from Universal. This is our third or fourth trip. I don't even know. All meshes together in one at this point. But, there's definitely some things at Universal that I would like to see over at Disney, especially for Vacation Club members. So one of the big things that I notice over there is that, now that Disney has this tiered system, Universal doesn't have specifically a tiered system, but what they have is this Express Pass, and this Express Pass allows you to get on the rides really with no wait. It's like the old school Fast Passes, but you can have as many of them as you want, and it's actually only for people that are staying at what they would call the high-end resorts. So if you don't stay at one of the high-end resorts, there's a fee, and that fee is $89 per person per day.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's high. But
that's basically a park ticket.
Yes, but what you do is if you take into account that for us, we have 5, so 89, let's call it 90 times 5 is 450. It's about the same price as staying at one of the high-end resorts, right? So that's kind of a wash. Well, here's the thing. So you get to go on, let's say, they don't have a tier 1, tier 2, but let's call it tier 1, tier 2, because that's what Disney knows, right? And their tier 1, let's say, are the 2 Harry Potter rides, because that pass does not work for the 2 top-end Harry Potter rides, but it works for mostly everything else. And, I would like to see something like that at Disney. So, I'm not saying that I need to get on all the tier 1s all the time in a row. But let me blow through the tier 2s, right? Like, give me something that allows me to go through It's a Small World with not having to wait, or those tier 2 rides, so that if I'm waiting online for the tier 1s, it's not so bad. And that's exactly what happened to us, is that we had to wait, let's say, literally maximum 10 minutes for these tier 2s. That's maximum. There's some that we walked right on. And then for the tier 1s, we were at 45 minutes. That's great. I would pay for that. Disney does something like that. I'm on board and I'm paying. And listen, you could make it DVC members. You could make it a charge. You could make it people staying at the high-end resorts. I don't care what you do. But give me some sort of option that allows me to get on certain rides. And I don't care if you put 5 tiers out there, that just allows me to get on certain things immediately and quickly. That's the one thing I would take away from Universal. They're actually doing right. The other thing I will tell you is, and I don't know how many times you guys have seen this, but they're a little bit more lax on their, so this is what happened. We're on one of the rides and it was shut down. We got off. We came back 2 hours later. Tell them that Jacob sent you, that you were on the ride and you should just be able to go right back on. And we were right back on. I know that's seems crazy, right? But Universal is still big and it happened. But again, this tiering system, I loved it. I think we had a great time. We were there 3 days. We saw everything we wanted to. We went on certain things twice. And it really, made the park flow a lot better for us. So I want something like that.
I got 2 thoughts on that. One, I agree, first of all. And to that point, I think that they're trying something like that at Disneyland right now. It's not quite the same, but they've got this thing called, I think it's called Max Pass. So
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, it's not the Fast Pass system. It's a paid thing. You pay, I think it's only like $10 a day or something like that. But yeah, the idea is that it gives you premium fast passes, but it's not tiered. I do agree. If I could, do Haunted Mansion and Pirates on loop all day and, get in my one ride on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I would be fine with that. I totally agree with you.
And that's kind of what they're that's kind of what they're doing. So I understood Max Pass a little differently, and I could be wrong here, but I thought it just allowed you to get kind of a pass right at the point where you could get a pass for another park after your fast pass is gone. I don't think it allowed you to hold on to multiple fast passes, did it?
I don't know if it actually. I don't. You're right. I don't know if it did have a limit on it, but yeah, I do know that the big thing about it was that, of course, in Disneyland, they're still on the old paper fast pass system. Yep. So one of the big advantages of that is that it kind of brings you closer to My Disney Experience, where you don't have to go running off to the ride and scan your fast pass. You just go into an app and you just say, I'm riding this next. I'm riding this next.
Okay.
Which in Disneyland, that does give you a lot more control, because you're literally like, you can be grabbing fast passes as you're walking to the rides. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to plan ahead, but you also don't have to be running around the park trying to grab tickets. So
yeah, and I know this was a big thing for people, especially on a lot of the message boards, is this, these upcharges and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, it makes it easier for everyone else. I also saw, and again, you guys will have to let me know what the VIP experience at Disney costs, but the one at Universal was $300 per person. And you went right to the front of any line you wanted to, no matter what it was. Now, I think that there's not an in-between for the normal average person and, that VIP experience that Disney has. There's no middle ground. And here's the thing. Yeah. If I'm coming from across the world, like a lot of people do, I don't have that time. Listen, the three of us, well, maybe besides Trevor, me and Tom, we probably go every year at least once, maybe multiple times.
Sometimes twice.
Right?
Or
Exactly.
3 times.
So if I don't see everything, that's okay. But if I was coming across the globe, I want that option. I want something in the middle, because I don't want to miss out, because if that miss out charge costs me, like I said, even if it costs me $400 a day for my family of 5, I'm kind of okay with that. I know there's going to be people that disagree, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I guess the part of that is, people that look at it as a once in a lifetime trip, they're kind of budgeting. They're looking purely at just, well, I'm getting my park tickets. I'm getting my hotel. I'm getting my food, and then it's, wait, you mean I got to pay more if I want to? Well, if I want to skip the line, but they look at it as, well, that's not fair. But I don't remember anywhere in this that Disney says we're fair. So
they're providing an experience, just like if you were at a concert and you sat in the third row versus or a baseball game or sporting event, sitting on the 50-yard line or sitting, on the 10-yard line, 50, 60 rows up, right? It's the same thing.
I don't get mad at those people for paying more for their tickets.
No,
exactly. Yeah.
But I want that as an option. I think that was the one takeaway. The other thing I will tell you is that I thought there was also a lot of very good in-park food. Now, Mythos is one of the top, actually, I think it is the top-rated in-park restaurant, and I was very happy with the food. And to tell you the truth, I was not really, hurting my pockets that hard by the food either. Like, I had actually brought more money than I really needed. And they also have this new place called Toothsome. It's a chocolate emporium, which and it's a steampunk.
It looks kind of like like Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, right?
Exactly.
It's like
cool.
And it was really good from the dessert end. The food we actually went at lunch. It was pretty good, but the desserts were great. We actually went a second time to get desserts. It felt like that was very Disney-like. The whole experience that place provided was very nice. They had characters, steampunkish, I guess, women walking around dressed in like olden time, like Victorian steampunk. Like, it was pretty cool. I just liked it. I thought it was good. It was something a little different for us to be at Universal. And I think that they do a good job of certain things. I will tell you though, when you go up on some of the rides and you look around, they have no room left. There's a lot of things that they take away. Yeah, and so there was some rides there that listen, I loved Jaws when it was there, but it's not there anymore because there's something else. And this ride is not there anymore. I think Earthquake's not there anymore, and Disaster and the old King Kong, because they have to keep refreshing their rides because they have no room. And I think that's one of the things that hurts them a little bit because they can't expand. And there's some rides, classic rides. Jaws was a classic ride. I enjoyed it. My kids never got to go on it. And I think that's, something that Universal misses out on a little bit.
Well,
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I have a lot of thoughts on the Fast Pass thing. So I've gotten into many online arguments with people about these. So, just to go back a little bit to the fast pass part. First of all, the VIP tour that you were talking about, it's between 400 and 600 per hour, and I believe the minimum is 4 hours for that. So it's not per person. I think it's just between $400 and $600 per hour. So it's pricey to do the VIP tour, to do the private premium VIP at Disney World. I agree with you. I love the idea of having like a separate tier, having an extra benefit for DVC members. In my mind, I wonder about the practicality of it, if it's possible. And so what I mean by that is I feel like Universal can pull that off because while they've grown in popularity a lot over the past, couple of years, they are still, not even, they're still far behind the least popular Disney World park, right? So I wonder in my mind if they start doing stuff like that, is it feasible for them to be able to do it? Is it, would they be taking fast passes away from other people, or would it, if you have like an unlimited pass where you can just go into, wherever you want?
How about give me one extra fast pass? Because I'm DVC. Like, see, I'd even take something like that, where if you're gonna say that, you got to limit it a little bit because you're right, it is Disney. It's a little more popular. There's a lot more, let's say, people there. That's fine. But as a DVC member, how many people do you think they would get to buy in if you said all of a sudden you can have 4 fast passes instead of 3? Fast passes.
No, I love that idea. I think that's a great. I think they should do that as a benefit. And honestly, I like to think about things from the practical side of things, and I'm just like, I already see people complain that the fast pass line gets too long sometimes, and it's like, it's like you imagine you're adding more things in there. But I mean, I could see Universal as they get more popular too, implementing a window system kind of like Disney World has. I mean, I have no information on that.
Well, the other thing that Universal still is, they're small enough that they can open their parks early for these exclusive members of the hotels. Because I think there's 5 hotels now with a 6th coming up. So when you can get up at 8 o'clock and be at the park from 8 to 9 and there's nobody else there in the Harry Potter world. So what they've kind of done is they said, listen, we're going to open Harry Potter every morning from 8 to 9 just for hotel members. And that's what they do. And that's obviously the most popular part of the park at this point. So they do something like that. Disney needs to bring back this whole, let's open the park early every day. I'd like that. I still remember that. And again, I'm being a little nostalgic, for old Disney. But if you were to tell me that there's an upcharge for old Disney, right? Nostalgic Disney, I'm okay with that upcharge. They've done it before. So they can do it again. And I'm okay with that upcharge. And if that means that there's going to be some complainers, hey, listen, there's complainers for everything, right? There's complainers that we're all not sitting courtside at the Knicks game. There's a lot of complaining I could do about a lot of things, but not everyone can do that, and that's just life. I can't do certain things as well, right? It's just where you are.
I totally agree.
Right?
Yeah. And it's just having the access to it is making it available, right? I mean, and I totally agree. We talked about this on the last show. I don't understand, and the three of us seem to all agree on this, is I don't understand why people get mad about the upcharge events. Nobody's forcing you to do it. I mean, you don't have to. So, I think the more they make these things available, but I think you're totally right. If they threw an extra fast pass out there, and I find it kind of interesting that what they're doing with the extra magic hours at Pandora, where they are doing it every night, kind of like what you're talking about, but they're opening it every night late. Like, I wonder if that's something they will try to do more, as opposed to pairing it back like they have been, because I mean, 2 years ago, I stayed at Magic Kingdom until 2 o'clock in the morning. They don't even get close to that anymore. I think the latest they do now is 1, but most nights it's midnight.
Well, see, I can even go back further and tell you when they never did nights and all they did was mornings, but every day was a different park every single morning. Yeah, and those were the good old days. Like I said, that's for me the good old days. I'm not a late sort of person, that. This is pressing up against my bedtime as we speak tonight. So, but yeah, I would like to see something like that. I just don't know how feasible it is, what that money would be. But again, I've noticed that there's some things that they're doing now where they're talking about, hey, you can stay late. It's not for everybody, and it's going to be a charge. Isn't there something that was coming up that they were doing that for, where you could?
Do you mean the Moonlight Magic events?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no charge to those, actually.
But there's not. Okay.
But they're DVC exclusive.
Gotcha. So something like that with a charge, I would take.
Right. But I mean, to that point, though, is, you're already paying, like, if you choose to become a DVC member, you are kind of paying for that, or, I mean, it's a benefit of being in DVC, and they don't have to offer that, but obviously, there is a benefit to paying for that, right?
Yeah, and again, I guess the one complaint that DVC people have, so what did we say we were at 200,000 approximately for DVC, right? Is what should we be getting on top of just DVC, right? So what other perks? And there are things out there, right? We talked about this. Actually, that art thing on top of Bay Lake was one of the things I thought was quite interesting. I'd like to see more of that sort of stuff. And I don't know if that means our dues have to go up. I don't know if that means point values already go up for the new people buying in. I don't know what that actually means, but that would be something that I would find interesting.
Well, and I would love to see them do what they did at Epcot at all the parks. Like I don't know if you've been to the member lounge at Epcot, but it is
I love
greatest. It is the best. I mean, we literally last time we went to Epcot, I think we went there 3 or 4 times. Like we went and got some popcorn from the popcorn stand that's right there that has the greatest popcorn I've ever had in my entire life, and then we went and got some drinks to wash down the saltiness of the popcorn, and just hung out in the air conditioning, charged our phones up. I mean, it was the best.
You also got the new iPods there. The new iPads. Remember the big ones were there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was nice. It was nice.
Well, and not only that, now I heard that when I was there, they weren't doing this, but now apparently they give out snacks there too. They got
we were there when there were snacks. Yeah. We were there. Yeah, had the snack cart used to come around.
Yeah.
And, there's all sorts of candy and chips and things like that. Yeah, we were there during that. And they also had the brand new iPads all connected. So if you just wanted to use an iPad, and they were all, ready to go right there for you. So even the big ones, the big iPads, the new ones.
I would like to see some more like member tours and stuff like that too. But go ahead, Trevor. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, I haven't been to the lounge yet, but I've read up enough about it that you're right. That's exactly the kind of stuff I want to see. I don't care about, them like giving discounts on park tickets or whatever, but having a place you can go in the park where like you can basically like step out of the craziness and the busyness, and you got somewhere quiet to sit down.
That's exactly what it's like. It's exactly what it's like.
Like that to me is like great. Like, yes, please give us more stuff like that. Yeah.
There should be one at every park. I would agree. Kind of like, they have the lounges at the airports or the exclusive members. Like, I'm okay with that too. So, well, I guess the one thing that we wanted to kind of talk about and go over is, we've been talking about DVC so long. What is it? So who was taking this part to kind of give us the basics of DVC?
I think we can kind of all talk about it. I definitely want to talk about our experiences here and, kind of how we went through it. And, we understand, we realized that last episode, was our first episode. There's lots of stuff we wanted to talk about. And the one thing we didn't talk about is what the heck DVC is. A lot of you guys listening might be interested in buying DVC. You haven't bought it yet. You want to know more information about it. Maybe you have done some research about it and are interested in doing it and haven't done it yet. Or maybe you are a DVC member and you were, one of those people that went and did the tour, bought it right away, and didn't even find out about all the things you get through it or how it works completely. That's a common theme that I've seen around the internet, and I'm sure you guys have seen that too, where a lot of people do it as an impulse buy and don't even know what they're really buying. So, we just wanted to talk a little bit about, what is DVC? First of all, what does it stand for? What is it, actually do? And so obviously DVC is Disney Vacation Club. It's a timeshare. You could actually argue that Disney kind of revolutionized the timeshare industry. They did something very different when they created Disney Vacation Club that really, created a lot of value. And in a lot of ways, the timeshares through DVC actually gain value over time. They're actually a good investment. Whereas, I was super skeptical. So we were walking around the parks, and we go to the parks every year, like we were talking about. We take a trip every year to Disney World, and it was, we always look at those DVC booths and say to ourselves, maybe we should check that out. And we finally did a meeting with them, and the salesperson, I work in sales. I don't like being sold to, but the person that I was working with, she told me, she said to me, and I knew it was a sales tactic, but she said, this is really vacation insurance. She's like, you're paying us anyway. You're coming here anyway, right? You're already giving us your money. Why not own a piece of it and, save some money over the lifetime of the timeshare? And I was like, wow, didn't really think about it that way,
Yeah. So do we all get to talk about our experiences?
Yeah. Let's
all right.
I'll finish mine a little bit, but, my wife said, we've been talking about it forever, and we stopped by one of the booths, and I think it was in Magic Kingdom in Tomorrowland, actually, the one that's right under the People Mover, and we signed up. First of all, the guy said we could get some extra fast passes, a Disney gift card. They'll pick us up and drop us off anywhere we want, and an ice cream sundae. So I heard ice cream sundae, and I was like, I'm in. Right, free ice cream sundae. I don't care how much this thing costs. So we set it up. We went out to the actual model room, and we met with one of the advisors, and she super low pressure. Really really low pressure. I was expecting, when you hear timeshare meeting, you just I'm always reminded of like the South Park episode where they go to a ski lodge and they get on the lift, and the lift keeps bringing them back into the room with the timeshare people because you just can't get away from them. That's not how this was at all. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It might be an obscure reference, but it wasn't like that at all. And before, and I always tell people this, before they do a meeting with DVC, like, don't buy that day. And I said to my wife, like, before we went there, I said, I will do the meeting on one condition and one condition only, and that's that we do not buy today. No matter what they say, no matter what they offer us, we will not buy today. And of course, so we did. Is that what you're going to say, Trevor?
No, I was going to ask. So when you were done the meeting, who talked who off the cliff?
Oh, yeah, that's exactly right. So exactly, as soon as she was done presenting, my wife looks at me and she goes, "We should buy this." And I'm like, "What did I say before?" So we didn't buy that day. We waited a couple months, and then we called back. We decided we wanted to buy into Bay Lake Tower because we really liked the location. We liked that it was newer, that it was the contract was a little bit longer. And we just got lucky that they had a contract available at that time, and we ended up with double points because of when we bought too. So we ended up with that year points and the next year points. Worked really well for us. But I'd love to hear how it went for you guys and kind of what you did.
Do you want to go next, Damon, or do you want me to?
I'll go next. That's fine.
Right.
So my wife went the first time without me to go and get the information, and I keep coming back to the fact that I should have just let her buy then, because we didn't end up buying for about, I guess it was 3 or 4 years later. But I wish we had bought the first time. So we bought a Saratoga Springs. It was the same thing. When we went with the kids and everybody, and we got all the fast passes. Actually, I think that we even went with my parents at that point because we were down there with them. So everybody got fast passes. Everyone got ice cream sundaes. Everyone got coloring books. And
I didn't get a coloring book.
You didn't get a coloring book. And I think the biggest draw for us again was the fast passes, because you got a lot of them. A lot of them. And I remember when we bought, because we bought that day, and this, like I said, was the second time. I remember talking to somebody in the ice cream shop that they have, right? Because it's over. We were at Saratoga Springs, right?
That's what they brought.
Yeah. We bought into Saratoga. I remember talking to somebody there that had 1,200 points and just being like, wow, this is a lot of points that this person has. And we ended up buying just 120, I think, from the start. And then we bought again through the same person. I actually liked our representative an awful lot. And he had called us a few times in between, every time we called up with a question or said, hey, we want to buy these points, they have a great system of knowing everything about you, and they keep really good tabs on you. So they know an awful lot. So, he had asked me things about my daughter. I was like, wait, how do you even remember that? It was like 3 years ago. But, they do a very good job at making you feel comfortable. And again, I didn't think it was high, press sort of, tactic. I thought it was just easy. It was easy for us. We ended up, like I said, buying more points the next time, and that was done while we were there as well, because we wanted the fast passes again. We got the same thing. We got the double points and then some gift cards and stuff like that. And then I think the second time we got double points again and something else. I don't remember what it was. And I thought it was great. Like I said, I just wish I had done it sooner, because I think that you end up saving a fair amount of money. The only thing that you have to be careful of, and I know that this is one thing that people will definitely be one or the other. I pay my dues in one shot, and I know people don't. I have friends that are at DVC that hate that pay it over the course of the month. But for my thing is I wanted to be done with the loans. I wanted to be done with payments. I just want to hit that payment. Now, is everyone's payment the same on that? Like, do all yours come in January, or is that just me?
Yep.
That it comes at the worst time in the world, right? Like, that's the only problem.
Yeah,
mine was like second week of January.
Yes. That's the only real problem, is that it comes right after Christmas. But other than that, I like that as our system. So that was kind of our experience, buying in twice.
Maybe we should explain too, the points, what those really are. The points are kind of a representation of your ownership stake in the building that you're buying into, right? So, every point is like a certain basically percentage of the building that you're buying into. And, the way it all works is you're booking these DVC resorts with points, and the points vary based on season, based on the size of the rooms, based on which hotel you're staying at. All those things vary, so you can spend more points, less points. You can add on to your points, but the points are really just a representation of your ownership stake, basically, in the building. So
for those people listening at home, you can actually Google the charts. They are openly available on the internet to see how the points actually line up. So I know you're talking, Tom, about like points equate to like how, or like renting a room or whatever. Mm-hmm. But when you say, oh yeah, I got 120 points, well, how much does that actually get you, right? You can actually look at, like, for a week in the summer, that 120 points may translate to 5 days because it's a busier time. But if you go on like a slower season, it actually works out to, like, you can go 8 or 9 days because that same amount of points gets you lower. The room value is lower over that time.
And I think the big thing for us is having 5 in our group makes it a little bit more difficult. Under 5 is a lot easier, but now with the newer parks, 5 isn't so bad. That once you get to 6, though, then it becomes a whole new ballgame. We could do it just a show on, just that.
Yeah,
because then you got to do a 2-bedroom. Basically, you can't do a studio anymore at that point. You have to do, and even most of the 1-bedrooms are 5 people, right? Yeah. So,
and that's the other thing is that the bigger the room, obviously, the more points. So you got to factor that in when you're looking at it, right? So
Trevor, how did you get involved?
So my story was actually a lot different from you guys. Is that I actually never went to a DVC meeting at any point.
Cool.
So
that's not cool. He didn't get ice cream or fast passes.
Yeah, that's true. You get ice cream, fast passes, or gift cards,
or coloring books.
So yeah, the funny thing is that we went to Disneyland last year in March, and same thing. Like we walked by the DVC booth like multiple times, and we were kind of looking at it, and we kept like we were more focused on our trip, so we just kind of said, oh, we should look into that later. And so when we got back, we talked about, because we had been to Disney like every year for the last 4 years, basically. And we were like, and we started thinking about, like, would this actually make sense? Like, if we're going every year anyway, would it make sense just to buy into DVC? So I started doing some research online, and then I sent DVC an email, and they got me in contact with my representative. His name was Don Deal. Really, really great guy to deal with. And basically, so he set up a meeting with me and my wife online, and I just started asking him questions, and he was like, and like you guys said, there was no pressure or anything. He basically just sat there and he was like, ask me whatever you want. I will give you honest answers. And he even actually changed our original plan. Was we were thinking that we were going to get points at the Grand Californian. And we were going to try and do DVC in California. But then when he explained to us that the amount of rooms available there versus in Florida was like way, way less, we started refiguring it, and we realized that it actually we could go to Florida for the same amount of money we were spending to go to California, but we would have much more availability, and we wouldn't have to fight to book the 47 rooms they have there or something like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So he actually changed our minds, because we were originally thinking California, and then he offered up, we didn't actually look beyond, at the time he said that the 2 resorts that were readily available were Alani and the Polynesian. We weren't interested really in looking anywhere else at the time, so we just went with the Polynesian, and we got 100 points with that direct. And for me, like once I actually sat down and looked at how the resort was laid out and where it was, because again, it was all kind of fuzzy in my head. Like he was like, oh yeah, so you're staying at the Poly. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And then when I actually sat down and looked, I'm like, well, we're right across the lagoon from the Magic Kingdom. And I was like, oh wow, this is actually this is really great, right?
You're on the monorail. I mean, you can't beat that, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So we didn't, and the biggest thing for us was like the entire process from when I first looked into it to when I finally bought took about 3 months. And that was of basically every week. I was reading online, I was researching, I was going through forums and finding out all the little ins and outs as much as I could. And then I made a list of questions, and then I would phone Don and I would ask him all these questions and get his take on it and get as much information from him as I could. And me and my wife went back and forth. And then it wasn't until October that we actually purchased. And then again, because of the time that we purchased at, we got double points as well, because it was like the end of the year going into the next year. So yeah, it all in all, like even without going for the free ice cream, it was a great experience.
So here's a question for you guys. We actually got to apply some of our current trip money towards DVC.
So money that you had already spent on your rooms, you
Correct.
got to apply towards. Yes, yeah, that was not offered to me. I would have loved that.
Yeah, so that was buying then and there at that point, right then, signing the papers. That's why it was worth it to us not to come back and think about it, because they were like, hey, you can apply some of the money that you spent on this current trip. So we couldn't apply, obviously, our ticket, but we applied all of our hotel room.
Oh, wow.
Right to the DVC. Yep.
So that, I guess, depending on how long your stay is, that knocks a good chunk off of the cost.
Yeah, that was definitely a benefit for us. I've never heard, like, from that point going forward, I haven't heard of anyone else getting something like that. So I don't know if it's something they stopped. I don't know if it was just something that we got. I don't know what that was about. But again, it definitely was helpful.
Yeah, it could have just been like a special thing that they were running at that time, or
yeah.
But and just to explain to everybody too, thanks you guys for sharing that stuff. I think it's really interesting to hear. We all had really kind of different experiences, especially Trevor's. Doing yours remotely, I think that's great, and all of us took some time to think about it, and I think that's a good thing. To do your research and to think about it. But the biggest thing, you have your home resort, the one that you buy into, and I think it's probably one of the most important decisions you can make, right? Because
I would disagree with that, but go ahead.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was just going to say, because if you're looking to get into a more popular place like Poly, right? So if you're trying to get the Polynesian, when you have your home resort, you can book 11 months ahead of time. So whatever your home resort is, so I can book at Bay Lake 11 months before my trip starts. But I can't book at any other resort until 7 months before that starts. And that can be problematic sometimes if you're trying to book at a popular resort or one that doesn't have a lot of rooms, like the Grand Californian, great example.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure that anybody that doesn't own there probably can't get, it's probably impossible to get one there unless you're going in down season. So I think that's a big part of your decision, is figuring out where you buy from. But it sounds like, Damon, you got a different thought on that. So I'd love to hear that.
My thought is buy wherever cheaper, wherever it's cheaper. That's my personal opinion, right? So one of the reasons why we actually didn't, we were Saratoga or Animal Kingdom, I think, were the two options for us at that point. We're a little bit older DVC members than I guess you two are. And I think the big thing for us is I didn't want to pay the extra dues at Animal Kingdom for, their yearly fees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that being said, I've never had a problem getting in. Now, I've been reading a lot that people do have this problem. I don't know if it's maybe when we go or how far in advance we book, or I just have never had a problem getting exactly what I want. And that leads itself to another whole topic about people buying DVC memberships to hold rooms, right? Like that's definitely another whole episode that we have to deal with at some point, because that's a big thing. But I'll tell you the truth. I see people saying that they've had problems. I've never once had a problem.
Well,
so,
and
go ahead, Trevor.
I was going to say, I honestly think that you're right, is that it really does come down to the time of year you're booking. So for myself, we're always targeting off seasons. So we're always looking like February, March, September type trips. And when I look at everything that's available. Like a good selection of the hotels were available at the 7-month mark. Mm-hmm. But if you're someone that you're buying into DVC, but you're saying, well, we can only go in July. Your home resort definitely makes a big difference, right?
I think that's where what it is you really have to decide when you think you're going for, listen, every year it's going to change, but in general, when do you think you're going to go? When are you comfortable with going? Because for us, I look at it, we're usually May, early June, or August. And that's usually about it. I don't have any problems. Now, if I was to say that I want to book somewhere for Christmas week, yeah. But again, I look at it like this. And maybe this, I've only stayed at Saratoga Springs, my home resort, once. That's it. I'm not going to be staying there all the time. I don't care how popular it is. I don't care how great it is. I want to go see them all. So to say that it matters to me when I'm really only going to stay there once out of every 8 or 9 times, a little irrelevant to me personally. But that's just me.
It's funny you say that, because now that you're saying that, I'm thinking to myself, of all the times I've stayed at DVC, I've only stayed at Bay Lake once, and then I've stayed at Animal Kingdom twice, and I've stayed Wilderness Lodge, which is my personal favorite actually, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, no, I think you're right about that too. For me, my wife's a school teacher, and so we have really limited times that we can go. She can't take off, so we go during the summertime, and I'll say I've done. Every trip that I've done a wait list for every time.
Oh, wow.
There was only one time I didn't get my wait list, and that was the week of Christmas at Grand Floridian. You can argue that Grand Floridian is probably the most popular DVC resort during Christmas time because all the decorations they do there.
Yep.
Plus, it was the week of Christmas. Plus, I didn't book it till like September. So,
I don't your own fault at that point. Yeah,
exactly. That is my own fault. Totally. I will say that right now for my trip in June, that I have Old Key West booked, which I've never stayed there before.
We haven't either, and it's been one we wanted to try to stay at. So I'll be interested to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I have Boardwalk waitlisted. I really want to stay at Boardwalk. We've always wanted to stay at Boardwalk, and we've been waitlisted now for a couple months, but to no avail. So I'm hopeful it's going to go through because we've always wanted to stay there at least once. But Old Key West will be fine too.
That's our next one for next year. Like I said, we go with friends. We let them pick the resort. In August, we're going by ourselves, but we usually let them pick, and that's the next one. Now, here's the interesting part. I'm going in August. I haven't even thought about booking yet. Not even close to thinking about it. Don't even care.
Oh man, that would make my head explode, Damon. I'm planning ahead the second I can plan. I'm the guy that's up at 7:00 in the morning scheduling fast passes and dining reservations.
Well, here's another interesting thing. Last time we booked at Animal Kingdom, we didn't even buy our tickets till we got there, so we couldn't even get our fast passes till we got there. And you know what? It still all worked out. Still all worked out.
You do bring up a good point that you hear a lot of times about people saying, it's impossible to get anything without fast passes, and it's crazy that you got to book them 60 days out and all that. But obviously, you can go. How large is your group when you go, Damon?
So there'll be 8 of us, but here's the thing: we don't need to go on the ride together, right? Our fast passes are different than theirs. And it's okay, because when you've been going on vacation with somebody for, 12 years, it's okay to have little breaks. So that's not really a problem for us.
And that's exactly it, is that people who say, it's booking that far out or booking really far out is the only way to get it. Yeah, if you want a very specific scenario, if you want 8 people and you want everyone to be on this ride at this exact time and in this room and all that, yeah. But if you're willing to be flexible, absolutely,
the only thing we're not flexible is food. We have to be together for food, but that's
But even that's relatively easy. There's still tons of options, and it's not like the restaurants are booked front to back all the time.
Correct.
So, and I think maybe that's part of the thinking that people can't wrap their head around, is that if you are a little flexible, and even on my last trip to Disneyland, my son finally is at an age where he can do a lot of the rides by himself. So we were going on the Matterhorn, and we did it once together, and then we just started the next couple of times we just got in the single rider line, and if we happened to be in the same car, great. But we were just doing loops on Matterhorn because single rider was 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, and the nice thing is that if you want to be together with the people for food, you can book your stuff without having your tickets yet for food, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what makes it a little bit easier. But that's, like I said, that's just us. I think we went over most of this stuff.
Yeah, and I would just say
talk more about it anyway. I mean, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. So I think there's a lot more to explore with this in future episodes, and you just gave me an idea. I mean, we could do a whole episode on how to play the fast pass system, because I have gotten 10 fast passes before in one day over 2 parks, and if you can play it the right way, you can make it happen.
Well,
so
I think you need to make note of that, and you need to make note of other people, businesses buying DVC. And then holding rooms. So that's...
And you know what?
Yeah.
So put this one out to anyone that's listening. What kind of stuff do you want to hear us talk about?
Absolutely.
Because obviously we've got lots of stuff here, and we're covering the stuff that we find interesting. But please, people listening out there, tell us what you want to hear, because we'll be more than happy to talk about it.
Yeah, welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. You can email us your questions, and I anticipate sometime in the future when we get more people on our Facebook page, we can take live questions while we're recording this thing. So
that would actually be really cool.
Yeah.
Or Twitter hashtags if we get really big. So I'm going to actually ask you guys to skip over and let's talk about security changes, because the one thing I want to mention, I have to harken back to Universal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So here's a really interesting thing. They do not have security checks at the park anymore. Okay.
At all?
Nope. So what happens is, all right, so here's where it's really neat. So if you decide that you're going to walk to the parks, which you can do, there's actually a security checkpoint. So there's like a kind of this windy little path that you can walk, and it will get you to City Walk, which kind of is all the food and stuff between the 2 parks. And there's actually metal detectors and security people with wands and an x-ray machine at that location. Everybody's got to go through the metal detectors. Everyone's got to go through the x-ray machines. Just, it is what it is, man. So,
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
and then when you walk to the park, you're in. Now, if you take the boat, same thing. They're done at the boat location as well. So when you get to the lines, man, the lines were pleasant when you walk into the place, because again, all those things are done. But here's another interesting thing. And I just don't know. This was kind of weird to me. There's rides that have their own security checks and metal detectors in Universal. And I think it had a lot to do with, there's some rides there that you're not allowed to bring your cell phone or anything with you because it could fall out of your pocket.
Or they don't want you recording.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the rides that they have it on are more like you're upside down, and if stuff falls out, like you will hurt somebody. And
you'll be looking for selfie sticks too.
Yes,
all these places ban selfie sticks, and they're always
there was selfie sticks at Universal though. I saw at least 3 of them. But anyway, that being said, is that they have that there. But I'll tell you, the security checkpoints outside of the park, phenomenal.
And that's pretty much what they've done at Magic Kingdom now. Is all those people that used to come across the boat from the Ticket and Transportation Center, now they get screened before they get on the boat. And they get screened before they get on the monorail. So They just walk right in. After they get off their transportation at Magic Kingdom, they walk right in now.
Now, is there a different line for them? How are they funneling them in?
So they're basically they have a ton of booths, basically, right before you get to, like, if you're familiar with where the Ticket and Transportation Center is.
Yep.
Before you get onto the monorails, basically they've just built a bunch of metal detectors and a bunch of tables, and they just have everybody go through before you get on the boat. Before you get on the monorail, you got to go through there.
Yeah. So when you come off the monorail, is there a separate path now for you?
I'm not sure about that. I would think so, though. Wait.
What was the point?
Yeah, so here's the thing. So the resort monorails have screening now at the resort. So they're screening people at the TTC before they get on the monorail, and then at the resorts they're screening people before they get on the monorail too.
So there's not going to be any special line. You should get off the monorail and just walk up to the gate with your ticket. No screening.
Exactly right.
And the people that are driving in, I'm sure their screenings are just going to be at a different location.
Well, so the people driving in would be going through the TTC, because that's where they have to park and then take the boat over.
Yep.
Or walk.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
And so the only people now that are going to be going through the old checkpoints are the people, like me or like you guys who arrive by bus, from one of the other resorts. We're still going to go through the regular ones, but I love this. I think it's awesome. I think it's one of the smartest things they've done in a long time. Because I'm sure you guys have been through the situation where you get to Magic Kingdom early and it is like herding cattle. It is a mess.
Well, and if you have a stroller or you have just one person in your party with a bag, it gets too hectic, and little kids are being moved all around because you can't stay together as a group. And I think that's the big thing, especially like I said, somebody with a purse or a stroller, and then you're going somewhere else. You're trying to meet them inside, so everyone's congested at the front because you're trying to meet back up again, and that's where it's been a problem.
Yeah, and I think it's also partly too why they moved the open show into the park. Besides the obvious benefit of them being able to have people shopping before the park opens, gives them a little more time to, for people to spend some money in the park.
Get your coffee.
Yeah, I think that's great. You get your coffee, you can relax, you can, it's the part, you get some great photo opportunities. Like, it's great for early risers, because, how often do you get to take a picture of Cinderella Castle with nobody in it? That's, unless you have an early morning tour or an early morning breakfast booked, you really can't do that. And so I really like this, because now you can just you get screened and you can walk right in, and it's going to lessen the lines too for the bus people and for and even Contemporary and / Bay Lake have their own security screening too. So like that walkway, I don't know if you guys have ever stayed there before, but that walkway over there, they have to go through their own security screening. So I think just by spreading it out, it really helps lessen the crowds and
there's less bottlenecks.
Yeah, and again, from the time standpoint is great, but for us, like I said, having a bigger group, and again, we're always going with somebody. It's rare that we go to Disney, by ourselves. But so, we're always getting, like I said, when the kids were younger, we wouldn't know where they were. Someone would have to take one, someone would take the other, and you're spending 5 minutes, sometimes even longer, just trying to find that person again after they've gone through the special, backpack screening or stroller screening.
It's funny when I listen to you guys describe this. So again, I haven't been to Magic Kingdom in years, since before.
Tom, why is he on our podcast again?
I'll be there, okay? but the funny thing is, everything you guys are talking about, I've already seen at Disneyland.
Yeah.
Huh.
So in Disneyland, the bag checks were all there's just a big line of bag checks, and they've actually moved theirs back too. So originally it was they have an area called the Esplanade, which is between California Adventure and Disneyland, and the screening was all there. They moved that back to basically the entrance to downtown Disney now. So to get into basically that whole Disney area, you got to go through screening. But there was never a separate line for people without bags. Everybody had to go through the same place. So you were always
brutal. That's brutal.
But yeah, if you at certain points it would get congested. But not having to split up your group, it does make a difference, because you just open up your bags, they look through everything, and you just keep moving through. The other thing that they were doing too is that the monorail there, of course, also the monorail goes straight inside of Disneyland, but the security checks were at where you get onto the monorail in downtown Disney. So that to me doesn't, like, when you say, oh yeah, they've got them at the monorail resorts, I'm like, well, I was already doing that in Disneyland. And even in California Adventure, getting in from the Grand Californian, the entrance into California Adventure there, same thing. There were security checks. So, like I said, it's just funny that Disneyland's already been doing this, and it just feels like I would have thought that Disney World would have been on top of this before Disneyland.
I think it's so. It's just bigger, that it's been harder for them to accomplish certain things. My only thing is, why don't they have X-ray machines? Why are they still doing hand bag checks? Universal, it was nice. You just throw all your stuff in a bin, they scan it through, boom, bang, you're out, and you keep walking.
It's like the airports, right?
Yeah, it's exactly like the airports. Why are they not doing that? Is it just there's too many people? I just don't know what the logistics of it are, but it seemed like it was an easier system just to be able to throw your things in an X-ray machine and keep it going.
I would bet there's budgeted for it.
Yeah, maybe I would bet there's a ruin the magic argument in there somewhere. You start making Disney feel like the airport. Some people.
But what was interesting is, again, because when you start to move it back, right? You're saying that, okay, maybe I'm not ruining the magic because it's somewhere else, and I think that's again what Universal did. It was so early that you weren't even in the park yet. You weren't anywhere close to being in that vision of what Universal has for you. So anyway, it was just a thought.
Yeah, I think too that moving it away from the park, I actually think that does kind of eliminate that argument, because now you're doing the security screening before you even get to Magic Kingdom, so it
increases the Disney bubble.
Yes,
exactly, and they love the Disney bubble. So I
love the Disney bubble. I'm good with it
too. You lose yourself in that place, and that's part of the charm of it and the greatness of it. But I love it. I think it's a great change, and I do think they are finally metal detectoring everybody now. Because when I was there last August, they were doing randomly selected, and
yes, correct.
My wife always carried the bag, so she'd go through the bag line, and I'd be laughing all the way through the no bag line, and then I'd get randomly selected every time, and I'm like, man, ruined my gloating. You ruined my gloating. So yeah, no, but I mean, I think it's a good thing. I'm always in favor of more security, so I can feel safer. And
I agree with that.
Can I say one thing to that too? Is so in my experience, every time I've gone to the Disneyland parks, there's always people, and I've actually. I've had friends and stuff that I work with that they get kind of bent out of shape about the security. And for anybody listening, like those people that are working there, they're there to try and protect you, and being nice to them and saying thank you and all that, it really does go a long way. You would be surprised how much people treat those security people like they're evil, or they're there to, ruin your day or whatever. It's like, no, just be nice to them, and they'll be nice back to you.
Yep, and it will all go quicker for everybody. Trust me.
Exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's something to be said for it being sad that they even have to do this much. But I mean, they've had some incidents over the past 2 years where
a gun makes its way into the system.
Yep, a couple times. There was a story where a guy, if you ever been on Dinosaur, that ride's a little bouncy, and the guy was carrying a gun, and it bounced out of his pocket. It was just sitting there on the seat. Yeah. And so, I mean, and that's not to say he was going to do anything bad with it, but it's just one of those things where I'm always in favor of more security, and it's a minor inconvenience to the day. And you're totally right. People are probably pretty mean to them, and they're just not happy that they're having to be pretty much searched before they go in. But it's for the greater good. I can't say enough about that too. So that's a great point. So
wow. So it looks like at the time frame we're at. So what are we nixing out of this show? You definitely put a lot for us.
Yeah, I told you there's a lot of topics today.
Yeah, I think I say we go rumors because they're new.
I love rumors.
Can we bump dining to next episode?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Sorry, Trevor. I mean, Trevor's like a walking encyclopedia of dining, but we got to have his ability to shine. We can't, make it short for him because he's got a lot to tell us. I say we stick with rumors.
I love my dining too. My waistline will tell you that. So
we can put that at the start of the next one, so that people can, people listening can
have anticipation. Episode 3, all about dining and Trevor.
Yeah,
we're gonna leave that
one up. Yeah. So some rumors that have just come out, and by the way, all of these things unsubstantiated rumors. I don't think
we need to mention again we don't work for Disney.
Yes. We'll definitely mention that at the end here. But these are rumors that are floating around the internet, and of course, especially with Disney, rumors, like even strong rumors, will float around a lot, and then Disney either cancels the project or they change the project. So there's all sorts of. I mean, because a couple months ago, you would have thought that Stitch's Great Escape was shut down and Wreck-It Ralph, virtual reality ride was going to be in there by now, but it hasn't happened. It's supposed to got canceled. So, there's all these rumors they change, but the one that I found the most interesting, and the one that I think is going to be, there's two actually, and while transportation is not exactly a sexy topic, it is something that affects DVC owners and just the general population of people going to the parks. And I think this one is really interesting. And unfortunately, in my mind, and I don't know how you guys feel about this, but based on what I've seen about it, it seems a little. Not necessarily a stretch, but it seems like they're they're coming up with this idea based on some kind of vague documents, and basically what I'm talking about is a gondola system, supposedly that Disney has already started building, that's going to connect Epcot to Hollywood Studios to Caribbean Beach and to Art of Animation. Mm-hmm. So I think it's really interesting. Caribbean Beach is currently getting renovated, and there's been a pretty strong rumor for a while there that they're going to add DVC rooms. I don't believe they've confirmed that though yet, right?
I
I
personally
feel
don't
like
see
they
that
have,
happening.
but I don't think so. I feel like everyone's talked about it so much that it should be, but I agree. I don't think it's been fully confirmed yet.
Honestly, I think they have a different direction for Caribbean Beach. I think that it's going to be their conference or another conference center.
Can I go on record saying probably my least favorite of any place at this Caribbean?
Wow. That's strong. I've never stayed there, so I'm not familiar.
I'm not opinionated about it at all, but probably. Yeah, my least favorite place to stay.
So the thing I find interesting about this, and obviously they're a lot of the stuff they're doing in that area between Epcot and Hollywood Studios is in preparation for Star Wars Land and for Toy Story Land at Hollywood Studios, or whatever it's going to end up being called when they rename it. But the increased capacity and things like that, and we already know, any of us that have taken buses at Disney World know that the bus system is pretty taxed as it is.
Oh yeah.
So adding
hour and a half last bus trip.
Oof. Yeah.
Wow.
It's rough. And so, if you guys aren't familiar with a gondola system, it's kind of like what you would see at like a ski resort in in Europe, pretty much. They're really large. It's not, I don't want people to think that it's like, if you guys remember the old like Skyway, it's definitely not the old Skyway where your legs are hanging off the side, and that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about 40, 50 person capacity, air conditioned, probably Wi-Fi'd, vehicles that will travel through the sky and bring you to where you want to be.
Enclosed.
Enclosed, yeah. Hey, that's a key to this. So I was wondering what your thoughts are on this. I'm not completely convinced it's happening. I think there's a lot
I
of.
don't think so either.
But I don't know.
So the one site that I saw said that they had been filing building permits for it. So the reason that it came up as a story for them was that they saw something about a permit for building these towers. So I'm thinking it's going to happen, and my thought on it is that I think, I know you guys say like transportation is not a sexy thing, but yeah, that's because Disney has a bus system right now, which is it's not exciting. And I think them looking at alternative modes of transportation, so kind of extending that idea of the monorail loop, where you have boats, you have monorail, you have buses. It just adds to the draw of the resort as a whole. Is that you've got, I think them putting in a gondola it adds this kinetic energy to the resorts. Like there's like, you'll look up and you'll see these things moving around, and again, you don't have to like go and wait for a bus. It's like, oh, let's hop on the gondola, and you get a nice view as you're going over top of the resorts and everything, right?
Unless it's themed as a ride, the way I look at it is it seems like an awful lot of money to be put out for very limited amount of people using it, right? So, because what you're saying is that Epcot to Hollywood Studios or Caribbean Beach Art Animation, just the percentage of who that really, affects, it just seems small to build a system, right? Unless you're going to make it kind of like a ride. So what's interesting is, I'm just like Mr. Universal today. They have that ride that goes between the two parks, which is actually a Harry Potter ride. It's a train ride.
The train, yeah.
Yeah. You make it a ride, maybe I buy into it. If it's not a ride, I just think it's an awful lot of money to be putting out for a very limited amount of people that are really going to benefit from it. That's my opinion. That's all it is an opinion.
And for me, I'm in the camp of, like, I think the monorail's a ride. My wife and I will just ride on the monorail sometimes. Even though it's transportation, we just love the monorail. So
totally. I love the look of it and everything.
Exactly. I don't know. We just like doing that circuit, listening to the music, the announcements, the little announcement about closing the door, and then in Spanish, and, all that whole thing. It's a thing to us. And to your point, Damon, everything I've read about this, it seems like they actually are going to be able to do this like fairly cheaply. Like, it's not going to cost them that much money. And I think I read somewhere that the way this system would work is they could set out gondolas like every 30 seconds or something like that. It's like a really like high capacity. It's more high capacity than you think it would be.
If you've ever seen some of the newer ski resort gondolas, basically they come down into the loading station, and you get like a whole bunch of them coming in, and then they slow down. And you've just got, I guess I would compare it to like getting on Kali River Rapids. where you come into the loading area and there's just like people are just constantly walking, getting on and getting off of the rafts, right? It would be that same kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah, it's just constant, like there's no like stop, wait, and that actually makes it better than the monorail in that sense, is that, with the monorail, you got to stop, wait for the monorail to come in, people get off, people get on, it continues on. This is just a continual movement thing, right?
Now, Caribbean Beach and Art of Animation are rather large places, so I mean, I see it makes sense from there. I don't know. I don't see myself staying at either one of those places, so maybe in the back of my head, I just don't care enough. I mean, again, you've heard my thoughts about Caribbean Beach. They probably go for the same for Art of Animation for two different reasons, but the only thing I want to see at Art of Animation is the pool. That being said, it will be interesting. I mean, if something like that happens, I'd like to see it happen more than just there, though. If you're going to introduce something like that, let me get it going to Animal Kingdom, too, because, man, that's one of the worst, right? I don't know where you connect us up to, but let me be able to gondola hop across all the parks. Then I could see it
gondola hop.
Yeah,
but maybe this is a prototype for that. You never know, right?
Yeah.
Like Disney. And to go back, I think we talked about this last week, where they or last episode with the dining, the automated dining that they have at the new. Sorry,
Trevor's trying to set himself up for next episode.
You're talking about at the new Pandora restaurant where you can do it through the app. Yeah.
Yeah, so they actually just announced in the last couple of days that that's expanding out to 15 more restaurants across Disney. So they started with a test thing in Animal Kingdom, and now they're expanding it out. Maybe we'll see the same thing with the gondolas, that if they find that this is moderately successful, then you'll start seeing different connectors going to Animal Kingdom, going to whatever resorts they decide.
So here's my only concern about, and I think that's a totally true statement, because Disney does tend to just test these things and see how it works out, and then expand it. Except for the monorail, although from what I've heard, it's just because it's crazy expensive to build more monorail pieces. But that's a whole other story. But I guess my only concern is I'm just looking at a proposed map of where this is going to go, and it looks like it's going to go like right behind like France and a couple of those countries. Is that going to ruin like the skyline? Like the view. Seeing those gondolas come in. That's my only concern. I'm just thinking to myself. See,
I don't think so. Depending on where you put it in Epcot, no, actually, I think it fits perfectly for Epcot. Honestly, Hollywood Studios, I don't know.
Well,
Caribbean
it looks like
Beach?
the Hollywood.
I don't know.
It looks like the Hollywood Studios station will be right next to where the boat dock is, so that would be fine because it's right outside. I mean, it's outside the park, so I don't think it would.
Moved.
I mean, you're talking gondola. You're talking France. Again, my geography is horrible, right? Can I start thinking Alps? I don't know. Where are the Alps touch France at all? This is just me not knowing like second grade geography at this point. But
maybe they work it into a facade or something.
Yeah,
that's true. Well, and there's actually another rumor that came out with France too that we can briefly talk about, and that's that they've been talking. This has been talked about forever, but about bringing the Ratatouille ride to the France Pavilion at Epcot that is in Disneyland Paris. Apparently that rumor's been getting stronger ever since the Disney Parks head said that they're going to redo all of Epcot pretty much.
As long as the crepes don't go, it doesn't really matter.
I only care about the bakery. I'll just go to that bakery and just.
I care about the crepes. That's it. Strawberry.
Eat my weight in croissants.
That's it.
But no, I think that's an interesting thing, and there's also a lot of rumors they're going to add a couple more countries, which have been persistent for how long have we been hearing they're going to add more countries? Probably since Epcot opened.
Yeah.
But I mean, the rumors apparently are that they'd be done with it by 2019, which I find kind of
that's crazy talk.
That is crazy.
That's just crazy talk.
It's very ambitious, and actually, that brings me since we're talking rides, that brings me to the other rumor that's floating around out there that seems pretty strong right now. And this has been kind of brought about from the success of Shanghai Disney, and that's the Tron light cycle, which if you haven't seen what that looks like, you should definitely. That's a must YouTube. That is a must YouTube because
I'm going to do it right now because I've never seen it.
You got to.
It's fantastic.
So cool. Besides being really cool, it's beautiful. I mean, it's just the way that they do it, where it's inside and outside. It's an absolutely beautiful ride, and so the rumor now is that for Disney World's 50 or for Magic Kingdom's 50th anniversary, that they're gonna put that into Tomorrowland. Which I think would be great, actually, because I think Tomorrowland, and this again, a whole nother podcast topic about the problem with Tomorrowland and how it's hard to keep up with something that's supposed to always be about the future. Right?
I'm going to start interrupting at this point. I'm watching this now. How fast is this thing?
Very.
Yeah, it's. I would actually put it about the same as like California Screamin' or Aerosmith.
Yeah. I think it's maybe 60s probably, but so the thought is that they're going to build that in Tomorrowland along with a revamped Tomorrowland, and also at the same time get rid of the Tomorrowland Speedway, and that the indoor portion of the Tron light cycle would be in the place where the Tomorrowland Speedway sits. Me personally, get rid of the Speedway. I'm fine with that one. I'm not going to get nostalgic about that one.
I'm nostalgic about that. I am. Sorry.
You are? See, every time I walk by there and I smell the gas fumes in the air,
I love it. There's no way. That would hurt my feelings.
I take my son on there. Like, at least I have been able to take my son on there. If they took it out, I mean, I would probably miss it the same way I missed the gondolas in Disneyland, because I was sad when they took those out.
See, here's my thing, though. So I look at this and I say, okay, so this is the Shanghai's main attraction coaster? Is that what you're saying?
For their... I don't even know what the land is called. It's like Future Land.
It's like Future Land or something. Yeah, I think they tried to avoid the Tomorrowland moniker because of the problems associated with that.
So this is their coaster, right? Like we have the Aerosmith coaster, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see this. I don't see the need for this. I'm going on record. I think it looks awesome. Don't get me wrong. It really does. But like, I just watched YouTube right now as we were talking. I mean, it looks awesome, but I already have.
And I guess here's the thinking too: is that you put something like that right next to Space Mountain.
Who's going on Space Mountain? Nobody.
Yeah, it kind of kills the whole draw of that, right? So
I don't know. I'm thumbs down on this.
So you guys are saying you're going against Tron.
I'm going against it. It looks awesome, but I'm against it.
I'm very skeptical that it's even going to happen, because the amount of redesign that they would have to do to put something like that in, like you're basically closing down Tomorrowland.
Yeah. And you know what? You're totally right about that. I'm skeptical about this one too. I think the Wreck-It Ralph virtual reality at the where Stitch is currently located, I think that one's probably more probable.
They should just turn it back to Alien Encounter anyway. But
that's another whole other podcast too. But although I did just see, I think Bob Iger came out and said that Disney will not be doing any virtual reality in the parks, and I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that too.
Well, wait a second, but isn't the new Pandora ride virtual reality?
No, it's more like Star Tours.
More 4D, yeah. So like more. So yeah. They're looking at it more. I think they're looking more like, and this is maybe like a semantics thing, but it's like more augmented reality type of thing where you're looking around and you can see different things. I think what they are thinking is they don't want. Like, can you imagine the load times of everybody putting on a VR headset, adjusting it, and then they got to clean it after every time? It would be insane.
The new Pandora looks like it's going to be pretty close to that without a headset. I mean, it looks to be kind of close. It's not going to be. I don't think it's going to. I think you're going to be more intimate than Star Tours. Star Tours is not intimate. I'm sitting in a seat, right? It's not intimate. Sure. The Pandora ride, and Tom, you'll obviously let us know when you go. Looks a little more intimate.
So like I said to Tom when we were talking last time, is that what it looks like to me is that they actually kind of borrowed the technology of the Tron bike, because you're kind of sitting on like a bike seat. So I think they're going to borrow something from Shanghai in that aspect. But then they're also using the technology of not Star Tours, actually, probably closer to the Shanghai Pirates of the Caribbean ride, where it's a combination of, I would think, possibly real props, and then you get the digital overlays and stuff that make all the effects really pop.
And it does look like, you're totally right, it does look like there is some sort of 3D goggles that you wear, but it doesn't look like a VR headset like where, like you can get right now, so it does look like you're wearing something that is slightly more significant than, like the 3D glasses you put on to go on Star Tours,
Yeah. Would you say augmented reality?
I think that's how he described it, was augmented reality. So the idea is, if you look to the left, you can see the things as you're looking to the left. I think that's what they're going for, but I mean, I don't know. I get why they don't want to do full VR. I could see how that would be a nightmare. And from what I've heard, like some of the theme parks that are doing this on roller coasters, like the loading times are horrible.
But is it really any different than the space ride? What the heck is that called now?
Mission Space?
Yes. I mean, when you talk about loading times and all that sort of stuff, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know. I guess in my mind it's probably because the VR headsets would be like, I don't know how expensive they'd be, but it's probably different than a $1 pair of glasses that you can just throw in a container on your way out of the building, Yeah. So that's what I think might be the bigger issue, is that you're talking going from like, something they probably make for nothing to compared to like a $500 headset, and then they got to clean it and give it to people. But I digress. I mean, who knows what they're going to do? They might change their mind on that. And, but I'll be really, really, really interested to see when these previews start of Pandora, kind of what that ride is gonna look like, because they've done such a good job of keeping the lid on that one. No one has any clue what it's going to look like. So.
No, I think we can revisit this conversation after we've all had a swing. After Pandora, and I think we'll probably understand a little bit better what directions they could go in.
Oh yeah.
So here's an interesting thing. So are we going to table? Because listen, this Uber service thing is going to be a 20-minute discussion as well.
Oh yeah.
I think that we table that one as well. I think that we almost have a third episode right here. in what Tom put together for episode 2, he was.
I was gung ho.
Outdid himself. Yeah.
we had a lot of topics, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on at Disney right now. A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But yeah, we'll talk
for people to look forward to.
Exactly. We'll talk about the Disney Uber service that is supposedly hiring drivers at this moment, and for my part, I want us, the three of us, to come back on the next show and have our guess as to what fun Disney name they're going to name their Uber service.
Yeah,
it's going to be some sort of fun Disney-esque name, and I can't wait to see what it is. So yeah, so let's wrap this thing up. I think we've been talking for a while here, and you're probably all tired of hearing our voices. So.
All right. So anyone who wants to get a hold of us, you can find us by email at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. Please, any questions you have, please send them to us, and we can try and address them on our next podcast. You can also find us on social media, on Facebook at Welcome Home Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at Welcome Home Pod. And you can find us on Instagram at Welcome Home Pics.
Yeah, and don't forget to subscribe to the Welcome Home podcast so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. We're doing these things every 2 weeks, and we're doing a little bit of an early episode this week because of the Easter holiday. And just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home podcast is for entertainment only. We're not employed by the Walt Disney Company, and all the opinions we say on the show are our own. A lot of it is rumor, a lot of it is our guesses and our opinions. So if you have real questions that are important to you, please consult your DVC representative for more information, or talk to a cast member. Thanks so much for listening to Welcome Home Podcast. Join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion and, of course, Disney Vacation Club talk. If you've enjoyed our show today, we're Tom, Trevor, and Damon, and this has been the world-famous Welcome Home Podcast. If you didn't enjoy the show today, we're Chris, Bob, and Jack, and this has been the Disney Addict Support Group Podcast. Hope to see you real soon, guys.
This is Skipper Albert A. Wall, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
When we hit a chair, how she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.